Hey everybody, it's Nathan from savagelandsnews, and we have a guest who honestly doesn't really need much introduction. You saw him you saw him winning Pro Tour, you saw him placing in Pro Tour, you've seen him take down multiple events at this point in time, and he did something so brave that I don't know if any other pro player has ever done, and that was take our boy Rhinar into a tier 4 competitive event, and he actually placed very high, right? I think what was it? It was a 19th or 13th place. What was it?
19th, yeah.
19th place on our boy.
Almost.
Almost one game most likely away from that top 8 placement. I'm not sure, but I think that's the highest place Rhinar has ever gotten in a major tournament. I'm pretty sure it's up there, unless we talk about like the very beginning of the game. But it's Pablo Pintor. Everybody give him a round of applause. Sunflower Samurais, we saw multiple brutes from his team place at Pro Tour. Multiple brutes. So incredible. How are you doing today, man?
Really well. I was really happy to finally have this conversation with you. It has been really hard for us because we have like this huge time difference, time zones difference, and it is really hard for us to schedule cool things like this. But I'm really excited to finally be here and
me too.
be able to do this if people still remember.
They're gonna. We haven't stopped playing your list. Your list circles the Discord every other day, man. I think you're on that first wave of Intimidate Rhinar trains. Like you were one of the first Intimidate lists coming out, and I think it really pivoted the way people are looking at Rhinar right now, which is really cool. But yeah, I'm super excited to have you on the channel. I've always wanted to talk to you just in general, not even just not just because you were playing Rhinar, but I've always wanted to get the time to talk to you. So now that it's all over, right? You played Rhinar, you took him to an event. You did very, very well. 19th place in a tier 4 event it's a card game at the end of the day. Like that's one bad game, right? Like one unfortunate game away from hitting the top 8. How does it feel? How does it feel taking him that far in a tournament like that?
I was actually like pretty scared going into the Pro Tour the first day because I was thinking like, Pablo, you have another time you have wrongly chose your hero for this event. You will suffer your consequences of this decision. But it didn't. My first day, I actually had some really good matchups for him, and I was like really happy. I chose Rhinar. But the second day was not as beautiful as the first one.
No, okay.
It was pretty good still. I managed to play one game on a stream, and I didn't embarrass myself. And I was even able to show some kind of power lines of the deck, so it was pretty cool.
Yeah,
it's been nice.
No, it's been nice. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, okay. It's been nice because I do have a brute specialist in my team. Yeah. He made top 8 of the Pro Tour. Daniel Correas, he has been playing Brute since the very start of the game. He has always been a Rhinar enthusiast. You have done a video with him, if I remember well, quite some time ago. And I'm very happy because at this point in time, it seems like I am the Rhinar player of the Sunflower Samurais, and everyone is asking me, and he's like, he made top 8 of the Pro Tour, top 4 actually of the Pro Tour. And he's like, why are people asking you about Rhinar? You have only played him for a few weeks. I have been devoting years of my life to him.
Look, it's because he traded teams and went for KO, man. It's not your fault, It's not your fault. He did very well, but he took the easy brute to top 8. You played the hard mode brute all the way up. So you said you were kind of hesitating in the first day, right? Like saying, what have I done? Why did I actually said that to myself several times when I go into a calling. I'm like, why am I playing this hero, dude? Like, it's so hard. But how was your breakdown of like Swiss, like CC Swiss versus draft? Like, what was your CC record on Rhinar at the end of the day?
I lost 3 out of 8 games on CC.
Okay,
and your 5-3 on CC and X1 on draft.
Oh, so draft. So Rhinar is the one that killed you a little bit.
I was actually happy, but both my drafts were insane. Like we had actually prepared really well for the draft portion of the tournament. All of us did pretty well on draft, and I believe Heavy Hitters it had like some really good cards for CC. Like it was a really impactful set, but it also had like a really good draft. I believe a really good draft format, and
Yeah.
You could find those little advantages during the draft process. Taking these cards, knowing which cards combo the best with the others, when to stay open, when to go for a class when you saw
Mm-hmm.
some signs, and it was pretty cool. And we were really happy with how it went down. But yeah, onto the writer side of things, I was happy because I played against Bravo and Slapdash during my first day.
Yeah.
Those were two really good matchups.
Yeah.
But during the second day, I played against. I lost against Hatchet Story,
Okay.
which I thought he would maybe be playing Dawnblade.
Mm.
I thought that Dawnblade was better going into the Pro Tour. Yeah, that was kind of our fault. We should have tested more. So I ended up playing unmovables and some things that
Oh,
ended up being
yeah.
really clunky that game. I also rolled like 3 to 4 ones that
Oh.
game. I had to take a lot of risks because I
Yeah.
was falling behind, and it didn't pay off.
Yeah.
And during the second day, I lost against 2 KOs. I knew my KO matchup was like a 50-50, and it ended up being 2-2.
Yeah.
And those were some really good players playing some really good decks.
Mm-hmm.
Lost one of them against my eternal nemesis, Andrew Rothermel from the Wolfpack. We have
Okay.
all those. He's an extremely nice guy and a really good player. But we always play each other in like decisive rounds of Pro Tours and Tier 4 events. Like we have played in the last 4, I believe,
Wow.
and the game that we played always was like the one that decided if you could, make it to day 2 or make it to the top 8 or
Oh
still
my
be alive.
goodness.
It has always been like a pretty important game, and yeah, I'm hoping to see him again in the next one and take more revenge. But yeah, I had a pretty unlucky game where everything was going like extremely good, and then I drew my last Blue Raspberry. I had how's it called, Alpha Rampage on my arsenal. Like it was a pretty good setup, but
Yeah.
I did draw my two copies of Reckless Rampage, Reckless Swing, and I couldn't, defend with them. I couldn't
Oh.
arsenal the Blood Rush. I was pretty low on life, so I had to take the risk, and I ended up playing Blood Rush with a 6 and a Reckless Swing on my hand, and I lost the 50-50 and I lost the game.
Oh.
It was pretty sad.
That's heartbreaking. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I got one typical game where Kayo just started much stronger than me, and I folded to him like what paper, Yeah, I couldn't do anything.
Yeah.
Like I knew Kayo has like more. He makes more numbers
Yeah.
than you do. Like he's not intimidating. He's getting these might tokens that actually translate into more numbers. They always mean more numbers. He's playing some really efficient cards that we are not running, like Silver Fangs and things like that.
Yeah.
I'm extremely bad for card names. I must tell you now, like I may be a good player, but my memory is in other places. I'm really bad at card names.
I'm actually exactly the same way. I know what the pictures are, and as soon as I see the picture, I know what it does, but I don't know what.
That's it. It happens to me as well. It's a nightmare trying to do like really deep, discussions of meta games and card games, and then you don't remember how Command and Conquer is called, and it's like
when I was helping Ethan with streaming, and I was trying to do the card picker. You pick the card on the screen. And they put the card down, and I was like, "Oh no! Like I don't know what any of these are called, dude. I don't know what a single one of these cards are called. Only the brute cards I know, but other than that, I was like, I have no idea." Okay, so yeah, I mean, KO just does more numbers. Has higher numbers, right? Like
he does more numbers. I did have my game plan into him, as I said. It's really close to a 50-50. It depends a bit on which cards he's running. But yeah, I was really happy with the results. Like it's an extremely good result. I wasn't expecting that when I saw the heroes spread on. Almost lost that one.
So you picked. I guess like before we kind of get into the I have a lot of questions on how you make those matchups like 50-50 but. So why would you have picked Rhinar over KO? Because your teammates were clearly on KO, right? So what made you go with Rhinar over KO?
The thing is that I am pretty afraid of playing decks where I don't feel like I'm in control,
Mhm.
and most of the time, uh, you came across this place, these lines on KO, where you just have to play a card, draw and discard a random card, and you don't know if your turn is going to end here because you're going to get unlucky and draw, one of your blue values. You don't know if you're going to discard your blue card and then your turn isn't that good. Maybe you're discarding your red card and your turn is amazing and you will, claw and swim big and wow, and the people will get up and cheer on you. But it always felt like it wasn't the kind of deck I would be interested in.
Yeah.
I feel like KO is probably an S tier deck, up there with a few others now, I believe. But he's extremely powerful. He's extremely consistent on what he does. But I also feel like you can lose a game against anybody if the deck doesn't want to work during one of your games. You keep drawing red cards at the block, you draw and discard your blues, or you only draw blues. And we have seen a lot of those on our testing, and I was honestly pretty afraid of playing that deck. And I felt like Rhinar offered, you know, a similar spread of matchups, a little bit better against some strange ones, and
Mhm.
it was just a little bit worse. Like you only did a little less numbers in general. So I felt really confident in playing Reiner. Mm, I also valued the fact that most people don't know how to play against him.
Yeah.
If you have seen me in other tournaments, I have played like a really wide array of heroes. I have played. I have won a calling on Kano. I have won on Guardian. I have played Fi. A lot of them Runeblade. So sometimes there's a clear best deck choice and you have to go with it. But
Yeah.
sometimes you can, risk a little, pick a not so obvious deck, and then you get like insanely rewarded for it.
Mhm.
And I tried to do that with Reiner. I didn't, you know, get my get my full reward this time, but it was a pretty good choice. I'm pretty sure. Maybe I will change this to KO, maybe, but I'm happy with how it ended because I also didn't feel like it was a weekend where all worked out for me. Like, to make top eight at these kinds of events or do well at any kind of card game events, having a good deck is really important. Playing well is really important,
Yeah.
but you also need a lot of luck. And I
Yeah.
will tell you this as a person who has made a lot of top eights, you need luck. Luck in your pairings,
Yeah.
luck in your opponents. Maybe they are making some mistakes at some point in the game, or maybe you just need to draw all of your triple rush in a turn against a Kano and destroy them in one turn. This thing happened, and it's pretty important. And I didn't feel like it was a weekend where everything worked out for me. Like I had some really really rough lag spots, and I
Yeah.
ended up doing really well. So I'm really happy with my choice. I may have to think a lot to say if I would have changed my pick for the Pro Tour,
Yeah.
but I'm happy. I'm really happy with how it turned out, and it's great also being viewed as kind of a good Reinhardt player when I haven't played him like ever.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I definitely agree with you when you said like luck plays a huge part of this game because it does, unfortunately. I mean, like, we saw Michael Hamilton's tear on Icelander, right? And I think he publicly said, like, I've never paired into a Dromai in Swiss. And it was like, multiple championships at this point, like, winning every event. And he's like, I've never played a Dromai. It's like, okay, well, that's great for you. But I play Icelander one time and I hit 4 Dromais that day. Like sometimes luck has a big piece to do with it. Or like, your Viserai opponent bricks on the most important turn back in the day on Rhinar. And you're like, this is all I needed to win. Like you needed to stop for one turn. Thank you so much. So did you, I've always kind of thought of Rhinar as he's like an interesting hero because his matchup spread very typically, except for the Lexi era, was like pretty good. His worst matchups are like 45, 55 ish. And most of his matchups are kind of a solid 50-50, like where if you play really well, you can navigate them. So did you kind of experience the same thing where it's like you could kind of look at almost any opponent and be like, I can figure this one out, like there's a way.
In this meta, at least, like I believe that Reiner worst matchups is when your opponent totally and completely ignores
Yeah.
intimidate. Like maybe Katsu can be a really bad matchup in certain builds
Yep.
because he just doesn't care that you're intimidating his cards. He will let you hit all of your Raging beatdowns even if you're not intimidating the whole hand.
Yep.
He will just deal more damage than you.
Yep.
He struggles against decks that have so much numbers on the table, so much generation that you cannot deal with them. But aside from those kinds of decks that are probably disappearing, and you said like the prime example of value deck that was Lexi.
Yeah.
Aside from those decks, I do think he's doing pretty well against a
Yeah.
lot of the things in our current meta. And the beautiful thing about his actual builds is that you can modify a lot of things in the deck. Like you can run the reacts, you can run more intimidate tech, you can run agilities, you can run bumbles if you want. He isn't tied to playing these 6 strength cards because you are not playing draw discard cards, or you can even make a deck kind of like KO with all the draw and discard. But I do think you will be better off playing KO at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, he's very flexible. If Katsu becomes the number one deck, you just run Amnesias, you run Pummels, you run that all you got, and then you can he's always been super techable. I've always said he's like a mid-range hero that can be molded a little bit in all directions, because his primary game plan is have a blue, have a 6, and have Blood Rush Bellows. So you don't really, you're not restricted in the same regard as a lot of the other classes, because as long as you have the blues and the 6s, you can pretty much do your game plan regardless of how many other things are in the deck, as long as you're careful and whatever. So that's really cool to hear. What do you think about the Boots Warriors right now? So Dory, Kasai, right? They seem to be the boogeyman of KO, right? Did you feel okay into them on Rhinar?
As my build was during the Pro Tour, I believe I would struggle a bit against them. The good thing, as I have told you, is that we can adapt a little bit. Dromai has left the meta. There were some cards in my deck that were only played against Dromai, like this Beachest blue card that gave +1. I believe most of the people didn't know, but that card was in the deck only to be able to kill Mirogai with one claw.
Makes sense.
So we can now play cards like Smack Calihorn. I don't know, it's Smack Calihorn, right?
Oh,
the
yeah,
agility,
Smashback Alehorn.
the agility might one.
Yeah.
You can play setup cards to do actually bigger turns, because I don't think those Dynamo decks excel at doing turn to turn value. If they are able to block with one defense reaction, one the Dynamos and one card for hand, like they are doing 8, and then they are coming with the 2 hatches and doing a lot of value. If you're not attacking for one turn and you're setting up instead, you are denying them a lot of value. So I do think you will have to build a deck that attacks them on the axis. I do think that will be the best course of the season. They will be difficult though, because they are playing a lot of defensive tools.
Yeah.
They are able to deal massive amounts of damage some turns. Like you never know if they have like 2 defense reactions, or maybe a defense reaction and I take it on the chin or something like that.
Yeah.
Or they have Spill Blood, run hit and run rev and another go again card, and then will just destroy you. So it's pretty harsh. It's a rough matchup for all brutes.
Yeah, they're definitely, because they're like the inverse of value, right? So they have the defensive value every turn, where KO has the aggressive value every turn. But their cost curve is just so cheap. You get an agility token, and 1 blue equates to pretty much 5, 6 to 8 damage, right? It's kind of wild.
And KO is losing a lot of cards from his deck when he's doing his turns, because he's drawing, discarding, he's attacking primarily with attack actions, and they are not using that many cards because the main value they have is on the hatchets, and maybe you're playing like 1 card a turn to give them go again and things like that. So you have also this very real threat of fatigue.
Yeah,
I know that they are playing more than 60 cards when they play against Chaos.
Yep.
Just so they have like this option of hedging into fatigue at the end of the game.
Yeah, it's interesting. Where do you? So I mean, with Dromai leaving, right? That was one of a lot of the time it was Brute's better matchup, right? It was you had poppers, you had, or not poppers, but you had go agains, you had attacks, you had intimidate. Like it was a pretty good matchup. where do you see the meta heading now? I have a feeling it's going to slow down a lot because I think Dromai was gatekeeping slow decks. And, we already kind of saw the breakout of the Warriors coming in, really slowing the meta down. But where do you think the meta is going to head now?
If you have asked me this question a week ago, I would have said that obviously KO and Warriors are up there in TRS, and that maybe because Azalea is also coming up.
Yeah.
She has a great matchup into both of them. There's another deck that has a great matchup into both Azalea and Warrior, and that is Pintor. I would have told you that those 4 decks seem like extremely powerful. I'm not so sure anymore, because if we had that meta, then it would have meant that Kano was a really good option for these tournaments, and I did expect a lot of Kanos at these ProQuests.
Yeah.
But there's a new challenger in town, and that is Prism. And Prism is doing big numbers. She's destroying a lot of tournaments. She's doing extremely crazy things, and she's primarily destroying every Kano she comes across. And I do expect a lot of Prism being played. The deck is extremely good. Like, it's kind of concerning when a deck can easily draw 8 to 11 cards in a single turn.
Yeah.
And generates more resources of them. So I won't say she's broken, but
I did.
I believe she's up there with the other decks. She has some iffy matchups, and it would probably make it difficult for her to perform that well. But we have seen her win both the Battle Hardened and the PT Plus, PQ Plus. I don't know how it's called now. The PTI event on this last weekend, Battle Hardened. So, wow, maybe we are entering another Flesh and Blood era. And maybe Rhinar has a better matchup than KO does into this one. I'm pretty sure he has.
He does, yeah. I think so too, because the flexibility. Yeah. I've been calling Prism being broken for a while because I have 2 diehard Prism friends. I mean, I think everybody does, to be honest. But like, one of my friends cracked it pretty early. So, Justin, I just had on the channel, not that like in my last video. He brought it to Pro Tour. Like he cracked ALS loop pre-Pro Tour.
He did pretty well too.
He did pretty well, right? Like I think draft hurt him a bit, and then like he lost 2 games of CC or something like that. But I've been playing into that Prism, and it is a nightmare, right? Like as soon as you realize that even if you're doing everything perfectly, but they just draw it, they just tome Genesis Arclight Sentinel, you've lost the game. Like, and that's not even like a turn that you had an interaction with. It was just he put his helmet in the trash can and won the game in 1 turn.
It actually reminds me a lot of when Kano goes off the last turn, because then you're not playing the game anymore.
No.
Then you become an automaton that is doing the same action. I'm clearing allied sentinels, or I'm pitching not to die to wildfire. Yeah. Like, you lost all of your agency at the game in that point, and then it becomes a matter of what is he drawing this turn? What is he blind Kanoing? Yeah. What is Prism drawing? Because I have seen those turns and they only played like library and an attack and a library. And then it's like, okay, I will win this game. Or maybe they will end up with Genesis, Satellite, Library. And you have lost this game.
Yeah.
So there's not a lot of ways to actually fight back against that. And I do think it will create pretty... I am... Just a little bit ago, I read a Majin Bae tweet about people starting to complain about Prism pretty soon. And I do think that in 1 week or so, people will start complaining because the deck does like pretty different things from other decks we have seen in the game.
Yeah. And it invalidates a lot of strategies. I know like illusionists have always kind of done that. Like their class identity is to invalidate certain deck strategies, like just core as a core mechanic. Prism really does it. Like Prism really invalidates strategies. Like, Herald of Triumph, even by itself, is like such a stupid card. Like your only weakness, I can turn off with a rainbow color in my deck. Like it's crazy. I really don't enjoy playing against that deck because, like you said, like he beat me on turn 2 one time because he just drew it. He drew Genesis, Arclight Sentinel, and played them all, and I was like, well, I guess it's time for me to roll 3 6s in a row or this game is over, Yeah.
luckily for us, like Rhinar has a much better chance at cleaning up auras
Yeah.
than KO does, and we are also running much more poppers, especially 7+ poppers in the
Yeah.
deck if we want, which are like extremely important because usually Prism will always attack you if you're playing Brute with the -1
Yeah.
Strength Herald, and that's a nightmare for KO.
Oh yeah, I mean, when your defense falls apart, like when your popping strategy falls apart, at least Reinhar's cards block 3. You know, KO a lot of the time it's just like I will take your whole turn of damage. I guess you know. I don't know. Yeah, so I think Prism's gonna go up there. I think Kasai. I don't know. What's your opinion on Kasai versus Dory? I think Kasai is stronger, but I just don't know why I'm the only one who thinks that.
I like Kasai against other decks, but my problem with her is when you're playing the mirror match against the Hatchet Story,
Uh-huh.
if the game goes on for like 12 to 13 turns, that +1 every turn on the second Hatchet is like extremely important.
Mm.
And they also have access to Spill Blood. Oh, I remember the one. The Spill Blood, which is a pretty impactful card, and I feel like it is harder for you to actually be able to pull off a big Blue on her hands turn, which is Kasai's trademark. She also has raise an army strategies. I do think she actually won the LA calling, and I do think there are some really interesting Kasai builds out there, and she may be like better into different heroes than Dory, but I feel like
Dory's
you will struggle a lot in the mirror match, and I expect a lot of both a lot of Chaos and a lot of Dorinthias in these next tournaments we will have.
Okay, so you think it's Boots, Warriors, KO, probably Victor, and Prism? You think those are the big 5 right now?
Yeah, the last two are probably not so good. They have like some bad matchups or the decks are not solved yet. And but yeah, it will be something like that. Then I will be extremely wrong. Like this has happened before. This has happened before. But those are kind of like the obvious ones.
KO doesn't seem that good in that meta though. Weirdly.
Wow. I like that. The problem I have with KO is that we think like, okay, Dory has a great matchup into KO.
Yeah.
But let's test a bit. Like I have Other Harden at Valencia this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And we have been testing a bit, and it's like, okay, yeah, I know we have a bad Dory matchup, but let's try some games, just to get the feel of it, if I need to change some cards or whatever. And then Kaijo just randomly wins all 3 of them because he firewalls, and Dory doesn't have the same opportunity or ability to hire games that hard.
Yeah.
The intrinsic variance to the deck allows you to do some awful things to other people. It's kind of like when you're playing, Guardian against Azalea, and it is a really good matchup for Guardian. You have these really good defensive tools. You will disrupt her pretty often, and then she just draws hot and shoots at you for 13 dominate 5 turns in a row, and then you die, and it's like, okay, I thought this was a good matchup, and and I haven't been able to play the game. Both Azalea and KO have that option, I believe, and I do expect more innovation in KO deck builds. I don't know what will it be. We don't have any any new hot things to share, but I do think he can maybe play 1 off or 2 off or some really spicy cards to try to fight his worst matchups.
I still think it's Terralim from Lim, you guys. I think it's Terralim from Lim. It does the same thing Cast Bones does, but it lets you do 3 more damage with a claw. Just saying it.
It's a blue.
It's a blue that never bricks your turn. It does 12 damage to 8 to 16 damage. It lets you throw in an additional claw, and it turns on alpha or Savage Beatdown. You ever Savage Beatdown for 14 with a claw? I'm just saying, it's lit. It's lit, and you don't have to worry about bricking. But that's just me. That's just me. Okay, let's dive into your list real quick. I think we've all seen it. I'm gonna ask like a couple pointed questions because you kind of already pointed out that like you were running a blue specifically for Dromai, right? So I kind of want to see if there's any other of those like gotcha cards in there. Sounds good.
It's a Green Guardian.
It's I used to have a deck list called Baby Green Bravo, and it had like CNC Pummel, Amnesia, all those cards. All right, let's do it. So we have Pablo's list in front of us. Now you guys have all seen this because we've been playing it and talking about it in the savagelandsnews Discord since it was dropped. Since we saw Pablo on the screen on his first Rhinar match that was covered, which was really cool to watch actually, because that first game that you were on stream for, you actually had a double Blood Rush hand, which is like the worst thing for all Rhinar players in the world, And watching you navigate it and take the time and like kind of like set yourself up for success was really cool to watch. But I
Yeah,
think we've all
you have a dig up dinner to save you from pitching one of your blue dress.
Yeah, dig up dinner. I actually really like that card. Weirdly. Okay, so I mean, let's just dive into it, right? So your equipment suite is pretty much the standard, I think, at this point in time, right? So you did you have gambler's gloves for like Prism and Dromai, or like what was your thought there?
Only playing it against Prism.
Makes sense.
I was playing Apex Breaker against Dromai because we found out that the main way to die in that matchup is when you weren't able to clear Mirror Guy
Yep.
in a single turn. So with Apex Breaker and a Might token, you are able to to get that Might token and clear up those pesky dragons.
Yeah, it's actually really crazy how important this card became in that matchup. Like, yeah.
Like Rhinar became like much better when this got spoiled.
Yeah.
Like this card is bonkers because in the other matchups, KO always has his own Might token that he creates, but both Command and Conquer and Senpakin are crazy cool with this card. Like it creates so much time for you to set up your Rush Bellows. Like it is crazy.
Yeah, it is. You have so much health now, and now we get another chess piece, another 3-block chess piece. It's gonna be crazy. I don't even, like a year or two ago, I was like, Rhinar has the worst armor in the game. It makes no sense. We're the only class that's like mid range with 0 blocking armor, and now we have like a full refrigerator.
I do think it is probably the best Fridge in the game.
No, yeah,
right now.
Yeah,
like a Sculling Flashback is like insane.
Yeah,
insane.
This card's insane. It's worth like 5 to 7, sometimes even more, right? Then you have this card that's worth minimum 5, right? We have Scab Skins, which it blocks 3 and sometimes is worth a lot or it costs you the game. I don't know, man. It's crazy. Okay, so here's the core of the list, right? So you were on Big Intimidate, right? So Rainbow Barraging Beatdowns. Then you had cards like Rawhide Rumble, Massacre, Show No Mercy, right? So these big intimidating attacks in Alpha Rampage. So what let you down the Intimidate strategy versus like the Agility strategy we saw some other people heading towards?
Okay, so the main thing about this deck is that every card blocks for 3. Okay. So you can always take your time, set up some big turns. And what happens with the Intimidate keyword is that it is extremely powerful against certain decks, and it allows you to take chunks of their life total once your hands are setting up. Like you get double barrage beatdown and Show No Mercy, and then you take like a ton of life of your opponent. So the idea of this deck is blocking a lot, trying to win as much time as possible with Command and Conquer and Senpakin with the Might tokens, and then doing, your signature double claw Blue Raspberry turns with Tunic, ending in another attack. That's why we are playing Rawhide Rumble to have more 2 cost to fit it nicely with those turns. And we're trying to push big numbers on our second Blue Rush Bellow because most people are playing either Balance of Justice or Sculling Flashback, and they will use it during your first Blue Rush. So you will need 2 Blue Rush to get your opponent low enough to kill them with an Intimidate turn. The good thing is that you can pitch with no problems the yellow and blue Valerian beatdowns, and they will come up nicely when you cycle through your deck. And they will be really powerful on those later stages of the game. You have like some cards that just deal a ton of unblockable damage. Maybe they are not the most efficient ones, like Alpha Rampage or things like that.
Yeah.
But you will push some damage through, and if they are low enough, you can allow yourself to be less efficient than your opponent if you're going to kill them regardless of
Yeah,
it,
you know.
with things like reckless swing and things like
Yeah.
that. So the idea is to block, get your tunic up to 3, play a blue ras bellow, and try to keep the tempo of there.
Okay. I mean, that makes a lot of sense, right? And then you picked your blues. So you had Bonebreaker, which you kind of said was for Dromai, right?
Yeah. This
And
one,
then,
I have never played it outside of the Dromai
yeah.
matchup. The main thing is that it gives +1 to your claws, so it was really good for cleaning up guys, as I have said.
Yeah.
Like, you could have played another blue intimidate card or whatever.
0.
Or I saw some people playing this card that creates mites if you deal damage. There's a lot of options. Like, blue spots are really, really flexible.
Okay. So, I mean,
We
that makes
actually
sense
had
to me.
another card. We actually had another card for that matchup, and it was the Cup Dinner. Like, I expected a lot of draw mice on the tournament, and we found out that the Cup Dinner was extremely good in the matchup. Like, you sometimes just were just cleaning dragons during the first turns of the game, and this is a +3 life. Shuffle out your deck, gain 3 poppers more on those situations until you start, throwing up your big attacks with blue ras. So it ended up being extremely good.
Yeah, I like Dig Up Dinner. It's a pretty flexible blue.
Yeah, it also saved me some games because it allowed me to shuffle my deck after I had pitched some Blue Doors Bellow or important pieces.
Yeah, makes sense.
And Warmongers is there to, beat
Azalea.
Azalea.
Azalea and Viscerai, right? Azalea and Viscerai. Like the two of our worst matchups, it just helps. Yeah. Interesting. And then your sideboard, right? Which is like, anti-fatigue, mechanologist. This is probably mostly for Warrior and Azalea too?
Yeah. I would play this card if I knew I would be playing against Dawnblade Dorinthia or Azalea. Like, we found out that if you are not playing unmovables, the Azalea matchup is pretty hard because it is pretty difficult to keep up cards in your arsenal, and we really want the blue ras in our arsenal until we have a good enough hand.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. And then Agile Windup, right? I love this card, but why are these on the sideboard?
Okay, so this is actually, I build most of my decks with a clear idea of what I am playing against and what I would do if I'm not playing against those type of decks. We have 6 reacts in the main deck, 3 sinks, 3 fates.
Yep.
And the idea is that when we are playing the value game, we will be playing those reacts because they are huge. Mm-hmm. But when we are facing an opponent that doesn't want to attack us, be it Kano, Slapdash, maybe some draw mice that didn't want the dragons popped, so they just play dragons and not apply pressure.
Yeah,
this card is amazing in those situations. It turns on both of your claws. It turns on a massacre, which is great if you had this into your deck. Most people don't know about this interaction, but it is extremely good against Kano.
Yes.
Because when they are trying to ragamuffin the last card on their hand, you discard this one, and as an instant, and intimidate the last card on their hand.
Yep.
And it is just backbreaking. You will probably destroy their whole combo turn there. And, creating the agility token was also is also pretty powerful if you're doing like this double claw 6 attack, and then you're also getting an agility token for the next turn. It allows you to keep up with the pressure, and it is really nice. Arc Smash and Remembrance were in there because I was pretty afraid of some fatigue decks going into the tournament. Remembrance actually won me 2 games, so I was really happy I found room to play one of them.
Yeah.
And Arc Smash is probably not that needed in the meta we're hitting now, I believe.
Yeah.
So those are probably 2 flex spots now. But this card almost cost me a game, but ended up winning it. I played against the Slavdas, as I have said, and I believe I rolled a 1 in the first one. I don't know if if I rolled another one or a 2 or a 3 on the second one, and I wasn't able to
Rough.
clear the items.
Yep.
But I was able to bring up one back with remembrance, and and make the game
Yeah.
stagnant. If they don't have the items, they don't push enough damage, and
Yeah,
eventually you will hit those hands where they cannot block and leak a lot of life.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, the list conceptually makes a lot of sense to me, right? It's pretty much standard Rhinar, but you have way more Intimidate from the new set, and and then you have your sideboard package, which is like get the D-Reacts out of your deck when they're not useful. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I will say now, I'm not a really good deck builder. I have always said that in any interview where I have to bring up one of my decks, I am very good at polishing decks, at making decks sharper, at finding those spots to fight the meta. But I'm not a really good deck builder. So I copied this idea from Rach. He was playing. He made 8-0 with Rhinar on one Road to National, I believe it was.
Okay.
He put up a video on YouTube, and it was like, okay, this idea works. Then the deck changed a lot since then, because he was on the whole agility plan.
Mm-hmm.
But it all started from there. So kudos to him, and I will give credit where it's due.
Hey, I love that. That's very nice, right? But yeah, I really like the list. I think it does. Killing people at 20 health with barraging beatdown is amazing, right? Like blood rushing them for 20 something unblockable damage is so fun to do. So I think
there are some cards that doesn't seem as good as they are. I believe it was like my second to third game during testing with this deck, and I hit the triple red barraging beatdown, show no mercy hand.
Oh yeah.
And it was like 21 damage, intimidating the whole hand.
Yep.
And I was like, okay. At first point, I'm a really good player, and second point, okay, this has legs.
Yeah, I think in my RTN, I killed a Dromai from 21 with all of their armor up, and it was like, red barraging, blood rush bellows into another barraging into tunic, and then you just wiped the whole table out. It was pretty cool. So now that you've played it, you've kind of gone through your Rhinar phase a little bit. Would there be any changes you make, or no? Are you pretty happy with like the direction this list went?
I like the direction the list went, but as I have said, I believe we will have some flex spots now on the blue cards. I don't know if we will be able to play Smackback Alihorn. That 2-block is concerning in the KO matchup.
Yeah.
But I do think we can remove Arc Smash pretty.
Yeah.
And it won't affect much our games now, and maybe even the remembrance, if we are not expecting that many fatigue decks, because I believe they are going to get pushed out of the meta.
Yeah.
So we will see, but yeah, I believe we can change some things. Maybe we can add more of the agility plan, or we can add some double you got to fight against warriors. There's a lot of tools that we can play with,
and the new KO set's coming out too, so we'll see what else comes in that thing, right? We know so far there's a pretty good like CNC light in there. There might be some other new cards that we get to play with out of that set, so I'm wondering if the 2-cost strategy thing's gonna happen. If oh no, I don't know the name of it. The 1-for-3 Intimidate card, that might become an actually decent card to play. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
I've been playing.
Not below hole
bellowing billows something.
Yeah, I know that card. I have played the blue one.
I like the blue one too. Where is it?
I believe it's up there.
Where is
Awakening Bellow?
Oh yeah, Awakening Bellow. Yeah, this card I actually really like it. I don't know. I've been playing with it a lot more recently. The 1 cost is the only problem. But, sending send packing for 9 with a tunic, it's pretty hot.
Yeah, indeed it is.
And the new 2-cost CNC, like this will fit that curve perfectly. So yeah, I mean, Rhinar's got a lot, like you said, a lot of flexibility, a lot of decision making. We got a couple questions from the SLN Discord, right? And so this first one's from Sigma. one of the most outspoken spoken brutes in the community. How hard was it mentally to pick up Rhinar or Leviah as a highly competitive player, knowing that their variants can get you one or two games, or can get you one or two games in a big event?
It was hard. It was hard. Like I was not comfortable at all with this meta we were in. I wasn't having any results with the other decks I thought of playing. I almost registered the Slapdash for this tournament, and I hate that deck with all my soul.
Yeah.
So, so that should tell you my mental state for the tournament.
Yeah.
I also did try to make Rhinar as streamlined as and not as lag dependent as I could. There are no draw discards here, but he still has like these spots where if you had discarded the beast within instead of the red card with your variety with your blue rush, or if you have drawn discards in this certain order, or spots where you just have to roll for scaffs, and yeah, I lost games because of that.
Yeah.
It isn't my favorite deck, I won't lie, even if I'm on this channel. But I do think he has legs right now. I believe right now is a serious deck. The support he got from heavy hitters is amazing.
Yeah.
And it is a pretty fun deck. I really like the deck. I may be playing him more in the future.
Yeah. He's just old reliable, dude. Like you just defend well, play Blood Rush, win the game, And sometimes you draw all three Blood Rushes in the same hand and you lose that game. But, like that's just being a brute, I think, He also asked, do you have Rhinar in mind, or do you still have Rhinar in mind when Dromai leaves, since she's gatekeeping some of the decent matchups for Rhinar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do think that if we find a way to make our warrior matchup not so miserable,
yes,
Rhinar is indeed a force to be reckoned in this meta game. I am not sure, so I am not putting him in S tier or whatever.
I agree,
but he has a really good matchup into Victor. He has a really good matchup into Prism. If we take enough for it, he has a good matchup into Celia. There are quite some decks that aren't that bad to play against, but I'm not so sure we won't see a huge amount of Dorinthias and Chaos, because those are two really easy and powerful decks.
Yeah, I don't think his matchup into them is particularly great right now, unless something evolves. I just don't think it's.
And you have to sacrifice one of them to fight the other.
Yeah, you have to. Yeah. And then the last question from him is, what does it take to be a Sunflower Samurai?
Actually, I have said this sometimes, but most of the people don't know. We are not a competitive team in the traditional sense of the term. Like, we are just some friends who also happen to play Flesh and Blood. We have known each other since a lot of years ago. We have been playing other games. We have been playing, I don't know, League of Legends or other card games, or tabletop role-playing campaigns.
Yeah.
We just have been friends for so many years.
That's cool.
And a lot of the Sunflower Samurais actually don't play Flesh and Blood. Like, as a group, you will see us, but we have so many friends that don't have enough time or the drive to play competitive card games, and that's all right. But I'm really happy with what we've got. We have some extremely good players. Don't get me wrong here. We have a former world champion from L5R. We have now two persons that have topped a pro tour. We have, I believe, every competitive member of our team, because we also have like people who can't travel or test that much. But everyone in our team has done like some really good results, either at a calling or winning a battle hardened or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm really happy. I wouldn't put us, in the tier of these extremely powerful, full of really big names, really organized teams like, Runaways, Wolfpack, Blue Peach. Like those are full of amazing players, and they would probably be shocked if they saw how our testing usually goes down. But we are a group of friends, and we do have some serious talent in the team. I'm really happy with how things are right now. Like,
Yeah.
it makes it so much fun. I'm
Yeah.
always having such a blast, and I believe it. People have seen it. Like, we are always. Well, we may see me getting angry after a close game or whatever, but we are always laughing and having a great time. I remember that we not even one person of our team did day two on the Barcelona Worlds,
Mhm.
and we had an amazing time even. And
Yeah.
those are the kind of things that are important for me. And we are traveling a lot. We are going to so many different places and experiencing so many different lifestyles, and
Yeah.
you need your friends to do that.
No, that's
Not
the
not
most
just
important
some
part.
people, not just some people that you're like grinding the talismans with, or whatever. And
Yeah.
I'm really happy. And I'm not saying that other teams don't have this kind of
Yeah.
you know behavior as well, but I believe what we have is pretty special. I'm getting sentimental here. It's
Yeah.
pretty beautiful, but
I agree,
I believe
man.
that we have a really beautiful thing going on, and until it dries up or dies, or we have to do other things in life, I will be really glad to continue it.
I mean, I think there's something special about when like friends play together and they go to events together, because like that's the most important part of the game for me, is like seeing the community, seeing the world, like meeting all these people, playing with people I like. It's also always really fun to watch the underdogs go in and like crush a tournament. Like it is nice to like we had a battle hardened and like here in Portland for the first time in a long time. And we got like people flying in from all the country, not all the countries, but all around the US, these like heavy hitters. And it was always kind of fun to see our team versus like these like juggernauts, and we took it home. And it's like that was something to brag about, because it's like our group
We
of
defended.
friends. We defended our hometown. It was like in our kind of circle of friends. It was our area, and it was like against like the big teams. It was the big players, right? And it was just cool to see that, like the camaraderie. And I guess we'll do one more question. What was your initial obstacles and challenges that you had with understanding and learning how to play Rhinar prior to Pro Tour LA? And this is from Wave Too High.
This one is harsh. So the main thing is the fact that you actually have to take some risks at certain points of the game.
Hmm.
It is built in the brute gameplay, and even if you are like a super safe player like I am, you need to take those kind of risks at some points in the game, because the value is insane. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes rolling scabs in this point of the game will mean that you're playing two swing bigs of a blue and tunic, and you know you
Yeah.
have to go for it.
Yeah.
If you roll a one, you will lose like a zillion value that turn, but the odds are in your favor, and you should probably be rolling there. And it took me quite some time to change my mindset in those
Mhm.
kinds of situations. I also was like, during my first games, I was like extremely afraid of getting rid, defending, or pitching my blue rasballos.
Yeah.
And then I learned that I can just win with two of them. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, it's incredibly hard. Like, this common pummel has caught me unaware. It will destroy my arsenal. I have this blue ras in my arsenal, but the game isn't over. Like,
Yeah.
calm down, play to your outs. You usually only need two blue rasballos to close out the game.
Yep.
And it was like, every time I saw the card, it was like, I must defend it. I
Dude,
must
yeah.
win the game with this blue ras.
Yeah. I've actually lost a lot of games from overcommitment to Blood Rush. Like I'll draw two on like the second turn, and I'll be like, I have to do whatever it takes to protect these things. So you'll do a really you'll take a bunch of damage. You'll do a really terrible turn. You'll put one in arsenal. You'll hold one in hand, and then your opponent does another big turn, and you're like, I guess I'll eat this whole turn to try and play blood. You know, like no, just get rid of
And then
it.
you die.
You know, just block with it. You know, like you said, you don't need all three unless it's like a full fatigue. But even then, you have remembrance. You know, yeah, really good points. Yeah, spoken like a true Rhinar main. Are you sure? Are you sure you're not going to play Rhinar forever?
I will play more Rhinar for sure because I did have a lot of fun.
Okay.
My testing group didn't have that much fun though.
No, Rhinar is not fun for anybody who's
no.
So I mean, I think that was the other questions kind of very similar to those ones, like how did you get into the Rhinar mindset and stuff like that. So I think we can leave it there. Do you have any like final comments on or any tips for the Rhinar players at home real quick? As a true Rhinar main, way more of a Rhinar main than your teammates on your team,
I just want to give a shout out to those people who endured the harsh times where, Chain and Viscerai were destroying the world and you were like, okay, I will play a Brian beat then. So a huge shout out to those fans who stayed true to their principles during those difficult times. And I'm happy that the wheel has finally turned and it is the Brute time to shine in the spotlight. Even if Rhinar is not the best Brute at the moment, I do think he's a really solid deck. And I'm happy because that means that everyone gets their time in the time in the sun, and they will have like this sweet moment where all your experience, all the knowledge you have in this hero will finally be rewarded. And that happened to Lexi mains not that time, not that long ago, and it is happening to warriors, and I believe that's beautiful. And I know for sure that Rhinar and Vincent communities are like one of the most devoted ones. So it is really cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited. Riptide's next. You know what I mean? I want to see Riptide's moment in the sun. But
it's actually really cool because I really wanted to play Riptide when he came out. I love pirates cool. and I love the concept of traps. And he was like horrible, like
absolutely miserable to play too. Not only is he horrible, but like he's hard to play. Like his turns are so clunky that it makes it like not super fun all the time.
I hate it when they pass back to you and you don't have any attacks on your hand. Like, big gameplay.
Putting a trap in your arsenal and realizing they're never going to attack you again. You're like cool.
So I'm happy though. Because he's getting some cool tools now.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to play Rhinar back in Outsiders, and he turned out to be like really bad. I wanted to play Vincent in Monarch, and she turned out to be like horrible. And I wanted to play Teklovosen in Bright Lights, and like at least Victor has been good. I'm happy because I have at least chosen one.
Oh, see, I've never chosen
character on the last four sets.
I mean, we're pretty much the same person because you pegged every hero I wanted except for Victor. I didn't pick a new hero this set because Rhinar was in it, so I was like, okay, But I
also like Olympia very much.
Olympia was the one I picked aside from Rhinar. You're right, and he's trash.
The second one.
Yeah, I played Olympia a lot in Limited because I just liked his style. I don't know. I just liked the hero concept. I don't know. His new card's cool.
It's really cool. I really like Olympia's design, but my guardian heart led me. You're dying over there. Led me to play some Victor games.
And he's like a value guardian. It's kind of wild. Yeah, I only like trash heroes though. That's like my thing. I only like trash.
Playing underdogs has its own charm.
Yeah, I'm like C tier hero, dude. Like that's just me. I'll always pick the
like Icelander.
Yeah, I don't like Icelander. I hated Icelander.
Oh, she was an extremely cool deck.
I hate
but just for the one playing it.
Yeah, I hated playing Icelander.
It created this whole dynamic where it's like you're playing the deck and you're like, oh, okay, this design is beautiful. Everything is so beautiful, and your opponent is like, oh, okay, can you please remove that channel like frigid, please? It has been 3 turns. I want to play the game.
I had a Pro Quest final sniped from me because my opponent ran one copy of one copy of the one that stops you from drawing. what is it called? I don't remember. That card that stops you from drawing cards out of your deck. And he played it on instant speed, killed my Blood Rush, and then he told me, he was like, I only ran one of these, and it just showed up on your killing turn. And I was like, that's great, that's great, that's great, that's great. I'm gonna go home now. I hated that deck, man. Hated that deck. All right, so that's all of the questions we had on the Discord. Thank you, Pablo, for coming on. I really appreciate it. I know that you're like a folklore hero in the Brute community now for taking Rhinar all the way up to the top, you know. And I'll make sure to continue to tell your teammates that you're the true Rhinar main. But
I'm happy. I'm happy. My devotion to Rhinar since ancient times has been rewarded.
Yeah, you're a day one.
I'm happy
Rhinar
to be the Sunflower Samurai Brute specialist.
Oh yeah,
I have always been.
I'm gonna title this video "The Sunflower Samurai Brute Specialist Pablo Pintor Interview." Is what I'm gonna do.
That would be nice.
I'm gonna do that.
I would
okay.
really like that.
You think I'm joking, but that is now the name. Well, thank you so much for coming on. I know it was a pain with the time zone difference, and then I have been very busy. So
it has been a pleasure.
But thank you so much for coming on. Yeah.
Thank you, and I will be glad to be here if I ever take my chance and play another Brute in a tournament again.
As soon as you look, I'll be here cheering you on from the sidelines. Hopefully. Watching you play Rhinar in a big event coming soon. Hopefully one that we're streaming, because then I can be there. And I'll make sure to put you on camera every round. All right. Well, thank you so much, man. Enjoy the rest of your day. It's finally getting warm over there, so go enjoy your summer.
Yeah.
I'll see you around, hopefully at an event soon. Thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you around. Bye.
Bye.